Welcome to The Story. I'm David Molko in for Pat Doris tonight. We begin with a follow-up on a story we have been covering since last week, the attempt to ban 8 books from school library shelves in the West Linn-Wilsonville School District. So in the last 24 hours, a decision. We have learned all of the books will remain, at least in some of those school libraries, and that makes it our big story. Okay, so let's remind you where this began. A group of parents from an organization called Oregon Moms Union first brought the issue before the school board back in November. They also brought it to our attention. Now, those parents were concerned about those 8 books in the school library, saying they had too much sexual content. We should note that, yes, some of it was so explicit, we couldn't put it on the air.
I touched Doug Goebel's and he touched mine.
Baby me. Like your mouth has a gift of reading.
All right, you get the idea. For context, it's important to note that most of the books here are about LGBTQ people or people of color, and many people in the district, including some students who spoke publicly, thought they should stay.
I understand and appreciate the concerns of parents. However, it is not reasonable for parents to choose what other students can and cannot read.
Well, under school district policy, the books went under review. A committee was formed to read the books, to talk about them, to read comments, and so on and so forth. It was made up of parents, teachers, librarians, and other community members. Now, ultimately, after the review, they voted. We should note that vote, it appears, was anonymous. Okay, at last night's school board meeting, the superintendent of the West Linn-Wilsonville School District announced the results. You can sort of see a partial list here. Now, all the books are going to stay in the district. None of them will be removed or banned. Most of them will remain with no restrictions. They can go to any school, although right now most of them, we should say, are only available in high schools. But here are the changes. 2 of the books in question will be restricted to high schools only. One of them is called Me and Earl and the Dying Girl. It was currently at one of the middle schools, so it's going to be removed, just one book at one middle school. And here's what some parents who supported that decision said after meeting last night.
Thankful that this board is not going the way of Texas and Florida. They are keeping their heads on, and they are protecting my kids. They're protecting the rest of our community. And I know that these books, I read them. I know that Flamer can save somebody's life, a guy's life, a kid's life. I know that Lawn Boy, it's okay to be you. It's okay to be human. And Milk and Honey, it's a literary masterpiece. Some of the passages in Milk and Honey blew my mind. I'm just like, wow.
The attempt to infringe on these rights is rooted in political ideology and moral prescriptivism. The notion that a fellow parent, not an educator, should dictate the books that are available to our kids is simply outrageous. In this great country, every family can freely decide on the value system that reflects their beliefs. This is what makes us uniquely American. And I have a warning to the group in support of this moral policing. If your child has ever used the internet, be it for casual searching, gaming, or social media, they have been exposed to far greater dangerous material than what will ever be found on our library shelves.
All right, just a couple perspectives there. You know what, we also talked with the Oregon Moms Union. That is what they call themselves, by the way, including one parent who led this effort. So here's her reaction.
So I think this is going to be a disappointing outcome for parents, but I think we're going to continue the dialogue and just continue to express our concerns with regards to the lack of policy and just with how the committee process was completed.
All right, so the district does have a policy like many other public school districts. You saw it play out that if a parent wants to keep their own kids from checking out any books in the library, they can do that by going to the school's librarian, putting a block on that title for their child. Now, a teacher in the district said that going to the school's librarian directly is the best first step.
Our teacher librarians are dedicated, certified professionals following local, state, and federal guidelines and maintaining our library's resources with the goal of supporting our students as lifelong readers. Their goal is to make sure that students have access to books that fit them as individual readers, and our students are extremely diverse. When community members challenged several books this year, none of their concerns were brought directly to teacher librarians.
Interesting point. As for these 8 books, the review committee's decision is final. It cannot be appealed, and under district policy, those titles cannot go up for another review for at least 3 years. All right, let us know what you think about the board's decision. You can email thestory@kgw.com or leave a voicemail at that magic number. It's 503-226-5090. Also, let us know if you know of any other book challenges in your area. We've already gotten some emails and tips about that, and our team will tell you is already looking into those. Also tonight, an Oregon lawmaker is hoping to tap into one of the Beaver State's greatest treasures to help combat climate change. You see it right there over my shoulder. Trees. You know, a lot of infrastructure projects can claim to be green in some way, but with this one, it's actually the whole point. Environmental reporter Cale Williams gives us a glimpse of how this idea took shape and where its creator is hoping to go.
20 years ago, this was a landfill. Now, Cully Park has rolling grass hills, a fenced dog park, and a community garden. And that's in large part due to the work of Verde, an environmental justice organization based in the Cully neighborhood of Northeast Portland.
It really combated the negative effects of pollution that the landfill was creating in the neighborhood.
Representative Con Pham, who represents part of outer Southeast Portland, said she drew inspiration from Verde when she was drafting House Bill 3016. She also had the heat dome of 2021, which hit her district especially hard, fresh in her mind.
In 2021, my district, HD 46, was one of the most impacted in terms of the number of people who died in the heat dome. Those temperatures are lethal, and we know that low-income communities, communities of color, are more likely to live in those communities that don't have access to tree canopy.
Her bill has an easy acronym, TREES, and it stands for Trees Restoring Economic and Environmental Stability Act. It would create a statewide assessment of tree canopy and a grant program that would help pay for tree planting efforts in areas where canopy is lacking. Pham says the bill is aimed at helping improve tree cover across the whole state, not just in urban and suburban areas. That would be welcome news to Eddie Melendrez, a city council member in Ontario on the far eastern side of the state.
There's a lot of sagebrush, a lot of mountains, but there's not a lot of trees.
And Melendrez said they've seen the effects of climate change in Ontario firsthand.
What I've seen is every year we're always in a drought. Every year is like a drought season. We're always hoping for snowfall, for the more rain.
That's just one of the problems Pham said this bill would help address.
We do know that trees are one of the cheapest, most effective ways to reduce climate pollution, to cool our air, to refresh our water table, recharge our water table.
The bill, which is estimated to cost around $15 million, still needs to move through a committee vote before it can reach the House floor. But Pham, she's optimistic about it passing.
What I've been really heartened to see is that all parts of our state are really coming together to express the need for a bill like this, and I'm happy to see bipartisan support.
Cale Williams, KGW News.
And that bill's next hearing is tomorrow afternoon. We'll track this one as we do so many others, and we'll let you know where it goes.
Up next on The Story, a Portland developer says his transitional housing projects are helping homeless people.
It has everything you possibly need, and it's so much better than a sidewalk sleeping bag.
Though now, he says, he's running into a problem to get more built. And it's not just regulations and red tape.
We used to be a city of doers, and I'm questioning that now.
So why the holdup? Blair Best explains when The Story returns.
All right, welcome back. I'm sure you know about KGW.com and the KGW app, the Story YouTube page, all those good things. But a quick reminder about our streaming service, because if you have a Roku or Amazon Fire, you can actually watch today's show plus previous shows and segments anytime you want. So just go to your Roku or Fire homepage, add KGW Plus. You see it right there to your home screen. Check it out. Of course, we would love to know what you think about it. Well, tonight we want to take a closer look at affordable housing, a top priority in the Rose City across Oregon, and one of the main tent poles, if not the centerpiece, depending on your perspective, when it comes to addressing homelessness. Though when it comes to projects, especially those at scale, often it's easier said than done. Permitting regulations, just plain old fancy financing can all stand in the way. Case in point, a private developer we have profiled before who has what appears to be a track record of success now wants to build more. He wants to build more transitional apartments. His struggle now, he says, comes down to funding. Blair Best explains.
Nestled in the heart of this southeast Portland neighborhood off 28th Place in Gladstone sits a pair of colorful buildings, retail on the bottom, residential on top. A handful of the rooms set aside for homeless people.
I don't have a garage or anything like that, but it's my house.
They're like adult dorms. I refer to it as monastic housing, but it has everything you possibly need, and it's so much better than a sidewalk sleeping bag.
It's a lot better than being out on the street. This is Jolene's first cousin. I'm going up to my room.
Just after the building opened 4 years ago, Marlon Crump traded in his sleeping bag for one of the studio apartments.
It may not be an entire, like a big giant apartment. It may not be the Four Seasons, but it's home. The sink.
I'm going to make the world a better place by the people I impact with what I build.
Kevin Kavanaugh runs the private development company behind the project. He partners with Join, a homeless nonprofit that finds people on the street to live there.
I think it's a manageable amount of people. It's both residential and commercial. It is designed and built in a way that fits
into a city with a growing need for affordable housing.
Portland has changed. The West Coast has changed. America has changed.
To keep up with that change, Kavanaugh is ready to break ground on 2 more of these apartment buildings.
And this is Jolene's second cousin. All those are bedrooms, tiny little bedrooms.
But there's only one problem.
I've got plans and drawings. I'm shovel ready, and I can't get out of the ground because of that bottleneck with money.
He needs about $500,000.
Because interest rates have doubled and construction prices have gone up. It's maddening.
This while the city of Portland is using $27 million to open 3 150-person tent sites.
I'm saying to myself, do you have any idea how much $27 million can really get a huge portion of people off the streets? This is a clean rack.
Crump, who's been homeless in Portland for roughly 11 years and pays about $450 a month to live here.
And it's the window, to where you can
believes affordable housing is what homeless people need, as opposed to the city's mass encampments or large-scale shelters.
To me, a homeless shelter and a bed, it is not a solution. It's not a solution at all.
We have so much research that shows that you never break the cycle of poverty by concentrating poverty.
Now, the difference between smaller affordable housing projects like this one and, say, something like Section 8 housing is because with Section 8 housing, there are wait lists for up to 10 years long. And that's in part because people need certain documents and need to go through other barriers in order to qualify. When low barrier transitional housing projects like this one, we've seen it can take just a matter of days to get someone off the streets. But there needs to be more of them in order to keep that momentum going.
I think that it's just a matter of identifying the folks that want to participate and be part of the solution.
We used to be a city of doers, and I'm questioning that now.
Some state lawmakers are now looking to pass more than $100 million to address homelessness and build affordable housing. They're hoping to pass that bill this month, but it's unclear if private developers like Kevin Kavanaugh will see any of that money. In Southeast Portland, Blair Best, KGW News.
Lots of questions, but great to see some solutions there. Up next on the story, one family search for a loved one missing for more than a decade. This young mother disappeared in 2009. The last time anyone heard from her, a 911 call. Why police refused to let her family hear that call, and how a newly proposed law could help find some semblance of closure. That's when The Story returns. Welcome back. On Monday, we shared a story about an indigenous family in Washington who led their own investigation to find a missing loved one after they say police refused to take a report. If you watched, you saw how they ended up finding his killers and remains before authorities were really involved. Tonight, we've got another story, one that has haunted the family of a missing 21-year-old indigenous woman for 14 years now. And while that search remains ongoing, as PJ Rondawa with the Facing Race team at Seattle's King 5 explains, this woman's family and cold case detectives could soon get a powerful investigative ally.
So this is Alyssa when she was a baby, when she was first learning how to walk. Every day I have to get up and pretend I'm happy. This is all of our family.
Tina Russell is a woman haunted.
Do you know what it's like every day to walk around with a broken heart?
Broken, under the weight of a question that's cursed her family for 14 years. What happened to her niece, 21-year-old Alyssa McLemore?
I believe she was taken against her will. I don't know if she was killed.
In April 2009, Alyssa was a single mom, raising a toddler and living with her family in Kent.
Once her mom got sick and she had a baby, it made her grow up.
As she grew up, the 21-year-old became a dancer, active in the nightlife scene. She had been picked up by police in the past, but Tina says Alyssa was always there when you needed her. So when Alyssa got a call on the night of April 9th, 2009, that her mother was dying, she told her family she was on her way home.
But she would always come home, and she didn't come.
To the family's surprise, the next knock at the door wasn't Alyssa, but a Kent police officer. Police had received a frantic 911 call from Alyssa's phone.
On the 911 tape, Alyssa is asking for help.
Police never let Tina listen to the call, but they did provide her with a transcript.
There's somebody in the background telling her to come here. I don't know if they said, I'll hurt you or I'll kill you or something. And then the phone went dead.
Kent Police Detective Brendan Wales took over the case in 2017.
It's not very often that you have the voice of who you potentially believe is the killer unidentified on a recording.
Alyssa's family says it began to dawn on them the real danger she was in. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, more than 4 in 5 Native women experience violence in their lifetime.
It just hurts to know. And this is what I say, Native people fall through the gaps. It doesn't matter what she was doing in her life.
This intersection off Pacific Highway South in Kent is where Alyssa was last seen. Witnesses say she was getting into a green pickup truck with Oregon license plates. Alyssa's BlackBerry phone didn't have GPS, so investigators could never pinpoint exactly where the 911 call originated from or who the male voice on the line belonged to.
A few years later, I did ask to hear the tape, and I was denied that. Now it's a piece of evidence, or maybe I know this guy's voice. Maybe I could recognize it.
14 years have passed. The family wants to know why not release this 911 call to the public.
As investigators, we don't want to taint the investigation by releasing that. We will be inundated with assumptions and conclusions and, for lack of a better term, a red herring of who it could be.
The detective told me he doesn't have manpower to take detectives from over here and put them on this old case over here. At that point, I sat and I drew on a board. This is where we're going to search first, and that's what we did.
So if the family makes a sweeping statement like, police haven't been to any of our searches, you say that's not quite the case?
Yeah, that's not, it's just, we're not in a position to say we checked here, we checked here, we checked here, because it's, notifying every place we don't find her. That's disappointing for everybody.
It's just a hard situation to be in.
Soon, hundreds of families like Tina's may be getting a powerful ally. Attorney General Bob Ferguson is championing a legislative effort to create a multi-million-dollar indigenous cold case unit.
Especially when it comes to missing and murdered indigenous women and people, we really felt and the task force believed that a specific unit dedicated to this work could help address and solve some of these cases.
And that brings us back to Lake Fenwick Park in Kent. 4 years ago, the family received a tip that Alyssa's remains were in the park.
I will not sleep at night if I got one tip that I did not follow up on. I can't say how deep it is.
While searching, they came across this deep abandoned well on the edge of park property. At the bottom, what looks to be a tarp.
I don't know what's under there, and my mind will always wonder until somebody does investigate it and say, nope, she wasn't there.
Kent police never searched the well or took measures to cover it up as a safety hazard.
We can't even get the city she's missing from to come and even take serious. They've never sent a team out here.
Based on the cell phone records, it's miles away from where even her cell phone would have been, and it just comes down to a time and resource of where it's at.
We pushed Detective Wales and the city to investigate and, at the very least, cover the well.
Like, that's a safety issue. A kid, a dog, anything can go down there.
The day after we spoke to Detective Wells, he and his partner came out to investigate. He confirms the well will be searched and investigated before it is filled.
This is one of my favorite pictures right here. I don't think I've ever shared that picture with anybody.
Meantime, life trudges on in Alyssa's absence. Her daughter is 16 years old and now helps in the search for her mom.
She helped me make flyers. She decides what pictures goes on flyers.
Tina hopes the burden of this horrible mystery doesn't haunt Alyssa's daughter into adulthood.
I don't want another family member in my family to die without answers. I don't want to die myself without answers, and the next generation have to pick up this search.
For Facing Race, I'm PJ Randhawa.
It should not have to wait till the next generation. All right, we have an update on that bill to create the cold case unit. It passed the House in Olympia a couple weeks ago. It's now waiting to be heard in Senate committee. We will keep you posted. All right, keep sending your questions and comments to the story at kgw.com. We've got an update from Pat Doris, fresh out of Eastern Oregon, right after this.
I'm Laurel Porter. Coming up on KGW News at 6:30, a mail carrier is attacked on the job in Northeast Portland. How she escaped, a man demanding the keys to mailboxes and her vehicle. Plus,
it was quite an experience, but no one got hurt.
we talked to the couple who came face to face with burglars who took over their home for hours.
Hey guys, well, our story listening tour continues. We're in John Day right now, where we've met some really great folks. And later today, we're going to head out north and east and talk to a rancher whose family dog and farm dog just got killed. One dog just got killed by wolves. So they're very concerned about what's going on with that. It's also calving season, so we may be able to see some of life on the ranch out there. Anyway, really meeting some great folks, having interesting conversations all around.
And some interesting weather, it looks like, too. All right, Pat, keep the updates coming. Pat, by the way, will be right back here Thursday night. I will be back here tomorrow, same time, same place, with a bit of a history lesson. Meanwhile, Laurel has entered the studio because KGW News at 6:30